The Whispers of the Moon Forest is a collection of bedtime stories full of fantasy and mystery. The story revolves around a mysterious forest bathed in moonlight. It is said that on the night of the full moon, strange whispers can be heard in this forest, as if the trees and spirits are telling ancient secrets. The protagonist, Ellie, is a young girl who loves exploration. She steps into this forest after hearing the legend. In the forest, she encounters various wonderful creatures, such as lively little fairies, honest tree people, and a white deer that can predict the future. Guided by these creatures, Ellie gradually uncovers the hidden secrets of the forest. The story unfolds at a gentle pace, is full of fantasy elements, and creates a relaxing and slightly mysterious atmosphere, just like a soft lullaby, accompanying readers to gradually relax and fall into a sweet dream in the dreamy story. Chapter 1 of The Whispers of the Moon Forest. Town rumors and the beginning of the adventure. In the peaceful and idyllic Silverbrook town, life unfolds like a slowly unrolling pastoral painting. The town is embraced by green mountains, with a gurgling stream flowing through. Well-arranged houses dot the landscape. Every evening wisps of cooking smoke rise, filling the air with a warm and peaceful atmosphere. The residents here lead simple and happy lives. They work at dawn and rest at dusk, getting along harmoniously and helping each other. However, beneath this tranquility, there circulates a mysterious legend. It is said that in the vast moon forest on the edge of the town, on every full moon night, eerie whispers can be heard. Some say they are the wails of lost souls in the forest, while others claim they are ancient spirits telling forgotten stories. This legend, like a mysterious shadow in the night, has been passed down from generation to generation among the townspeople, sparking countless people's curiosity and fear. Ellie, an 18-year-old young girl, lives in this town. She has long honey-colored hair that shimmers with a charming luster under the sunlight and falls softly over her shoulders. Her eyes are like deep blue lakes, clear and vivid, often twinkling with a curious light for the unknown world. Ellie is cheerful, lively, brave, and full of a strong desire to explore the unknown. She is particularly fascinated by the legend of the Moon Forest. Those mysterious whispers seem to have an invisible magic, deeply attracting her. One sunny day, Ellie made an appointment to meet her friend Lily at the cafe in the center of the town. The cafe was filled with the rich aroma of coffee, and soft music flowed in the air. The two sat by the window and sunlight filtered through the glass, casting warm spots on them. Lily picked up the coffee cup, took a small sip, looked at Ellie with a hint of worry in her eyes and said, "Ellie, have you heard? Recently, there have been more rumors about the Moon Forest. Many people say that the whispers heard on the full moon night are getting clearer and more terrifying." A glint of excitement flashed in Ellie's eyes, and she leaned forward slightly, saying, "Really? I think it's so amazing. Lily, what do you think secrets are hidden in that forest? Why are there such whispers?" Lily frowned, put down the coffee cup, and persuaded, "Ellie, I know you're interested in these mysterious things, but the Moon Forest is really dangerous. It is said that several bold young people went in for an adventure before, and when they came out, their faces were as pale as paper, and they refused to say anything, as if they had been extremely frightened. Don't be impulsive. Don't take risks." Ellie, however, didn't think so. She smiled confidently and said, "Lily, don't worry. I'm not a child. I'll be careful. Moreover, I really want to figure out what those whispers are all about. Maybe there's an astonishing secret behind it." Lily sighed helplessly. She knew Ellie's character too well. Once she made up her mind, it was hard to change. Looking at Ellie's determined eyes, she said, "Well, I know I can't persuade you, but you must promise me that no matter what happens, You'll ensure your own safety. If there's any danger, come out immediately, okay? Ellie nodded vigorously and said, I promise you, Lily. I will be careful. I just want to have a look. Maybe I can uncover the mystery that has puzzled everyone for years. After leaving the cafe, Ellie began to plan her adventure in the Moon Forest in her mind. She returned home, dug out her old backpack, and started preparing the items needed for the adventure. She packed some essential food and water, a sharp knife, a flashlight, as well as a notebook and a pen to record her discoveries in the forest. As night gradually fell, Silverbrook Town was shrouded in a quiet darkness. Lying in bed, Ellie couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Her mind was filled with the mysterious scenes of the Moon Forest, and those eerie whispers seemed to echo in her ears. She was full of anticipation for the adventure tomorrow, along with a bit of nervousness. But the intense curiosity deep in her heart overcame everything. She secretly made up her mind to uncover the secrets of the Moon Forest. The next morning, sunlight shone on Ellie's face through the window, waking her up from her sleep. She quickly got up, washed up, put on comfortable adventure clothes, and carried her backpack. She looked at herself in the mirror, her eyes shining with a determined light. Ellie walked out of her house and headed towards the Moon Forest on the edge of the town. Along the way, birds were singing cheerfully in the branches, as if seeing her off. Wildflowers by the roadside were blooming in colorful splendor, exuding a fragrant aroma. However, as she gradually approached the Moon Forest, the atmosphere around began to feel a bit strange. The originally bright sunlight seemed to be covered by a faint shadow, and the air was filled with a mysterious and silent aura. When Ellie finally reached the edge of the Moon Forest, she stopped. The forest in front of her was lush and green, with tall trees blocking out the sky. Sunlight could only filter through the layers of branches and leaves, casting mottled light and shadow. A thin layer of fog permeated the forest, making it look even more mysterious. Ellie took a deep breath, feeling the dampness and the smell of earth in the air. She knew that she was about to step into an unknown world, a world full of mystery and danger. But she had no thought of retreating. Instead, the excitement in her heart grew stronger. Ellie took a firm step and entered the Moon Forest. She walked along a narrow and winding path. The fallen leaves under her feet made a rustling sound. The trees around were of various shapes. Some had extremely thick trunks that would take several people to embrace, and some had twisted and coiled branches, as if they were elaborate artworks carved by nature. As she walked, Ellie carefully observed the surrounding environment and gently touched the tree trunks with her hand, feeling the breath of the forest. Suddenly, Ellie heard a slight rustling sound, as if something was moving through the bushes. Her heart skipped a beat, and she immediately stopped, nervously looking around. Her hand involuntarily grasped the knife in her backpack, and her eyes were fixed on the direction where the sound came from. A little squirrel darted out of the bushes. It had a pine cone in its mouth, and its round eyes looked at Ellie curiously. Ellie let out a sigh of relief and smiled. She gently squatted down and said to the little squirrel, "Hey little guy, you scared me. Are you happy living here?" The little squirrel didn't seem to be afraid of Ellie. It tilted its head, looked at her, and then quickly climbed up the nearby tree. Ellie stood up, watching the little squirrel's disappearing figure, and couldn't help but sigh with emotion at the vitality of this forest. Ellie continued to walk along the path. Before she knew it, the sun was gradually setting. Golden sunlight shone through the gaps in the leaves, casting golden spots on the ground. Ellie realized that it was getting late, and she decided to find a safe place to camp for the night. She searched around and found a relatively flat open space, with some thick trees nearby that could provide certain protection. Ellie put down her backpack and started setting up the tent. She skillfully assembled the various parts of the tent. Soon a simple tent was set up. She entered the tent, took out the sleeping bag from her backpack and spread it out, and then took out some food and water for a simple dinner. The moon forest at night was extremely quiet, only the occasional chirping of insects breaking the silence. Lying in the sleeping bag, Ellie looked at the top of the tent, her mind filled with thoughts. She didn't know what she would encounter in the forest tomorrow, whether it was more wonderful creatures or hidden dangers in the dark. But she knew that she had embarked on this adventure, and no matter what awaited her ahead, she had to face it bravely. In this silence and anticipation, Ellie gradually fell asleep. Moonlight shone on her face through the gap of the tent, as if guarding this brave girl. And deep in the forest not far away, pairs of mysterious eyes were watching her every move. Chapter 2. Wonderful Encounters in the Forest. The first ray of morning sunlight gently filtered through the gap of the tent and shone on Ellie's face, waking her up from a sweet dream. Ellie slowly opened her eyes and was momentarily caught between the dream and reality. She blinked and gradually came to her senses, realizing that she was in the moon forest. She emerged from the sleeping bag, stretched a big stretch, and took in the fresh morning air. The sleep last night had refreshed her, and she was full of anticipation for today's adventure. Ellie stepped out of the tent, and the sunlight bathed her warm and comfortable. She looked up and saw the branches and leaves of the trees swaying gently in the breeze, as if waving to her. Ellie decided to have some breakfast to replenish her energy. She took out some dry food and water from her backpack and sat in front of the tent, enjoying them slowly. As she ate, she observed the surrounding environment. The forest looked particularly beautiful in the morning sunlight. Birds were singing cheerfully in the branches, and dewdrops on the leaves sparkled like bright pearls. After finishing breakfast, Ellie packed her things and continued her adventure. She walked along the path she had taken last night, filled with curiosity about what wonderful discoveries she might make today. After walking for a while, Ellie heard a clear and melodious sound, as if many small bells were tinkling in the wind. She followed the direction of the sound, feeling both excited and nervous. After bypassing a thick bush, an astonishing scene appeared in front of Ellie. A group of fairies were dancing in an open space filled with colorful flowers. They were tiny, about the size of a thumb, and their bodies emitted a soft and gorgeous light, as if they were fairies from a fairy tale world. The fairies' wings were as thin as cicada wings, refracting a riot of colors in the sunlight, which was extremely beautiful. Ellie opened her mouth in surprise. She had never seen such a wonderful sight. The fairies seemed to notice Ellie's arrival and stopped dancing one after another, looking at her curiously. One of the fairies flapped its wings, flew in front of Ellie, tilted its head, and asked in a clear and sweet voice, "Who are you? Why did you come to this forest?" Ellie came to her senses, smiled, and said softly, "My name is Ellie. I'm from Silverbrook Town. I heard that mysterious whispers can be heard in this forest on the night of the full moon, so I came to explore the secret. Do you know what those whispers are all about?" The fairy blinked its lively eyes and said, "So that's the case. Those whispers do hide a secret, but it's an ancient and complicated story. Would you like to play with us? Maybe during the play, you'll learn some clues about the whispers." Ellie nodded excitedly and said, "Sure, I'd love to play with you." So Ellie joined the fairies' game. The fairies flew around Ellie, leading her to shuttle through the flowers. They would sometimes stop on the flowers to pick pollen, and sometimes spin and jump in the air, showing their graceful dances. Ellie laughed and played with the fairies, as if she had returned to her carefree childhood. After playing for a while, Ellie and the fairies sat on the grass to rest. Ellie asked again, "Can you tell me more about the whispers? I really want to figure it out." One fairy thought for a while and said, "I heard from the elders that this forest was once guarded by a powerful and mysterious magic force. But later something happened, causing the magic to become unbalanced. And since then, those strange whispers have been heard in the forest. We're not quite sure what exactly happened. However, it is said that only by finding the guardian of the forest can you learn more of the truth." Ellie asked curiously, "The guardian of the forest? Who is it? Where can I find him?" The fairy replied, "The guardian of the forest is Grandpa Treeman. He is huge like a moving hill. He knows many secrets of the forest, including the secret of the whispers. You just need to follow this stream and you'll find him. But sometimes Grandpa Treeman can be very serious. Don't be afraid when you see him." Ellie said gratefully, "Thank you for telling me so much. I will definitely go find Grandpa Treeman." After a short rest, Ellie said goodbye to the fairies and continued walking along the stream. The water in the stream was crystal clear, and fish were swimming freely in it. All kinds of flowers and plants grew by the stream, emitting a fragrant smell. As she walked, Ellie admired the beautiful scenery along the way and paid attention to the movements around her, for fear of missing any clues related to Grandpa Treeman. As she walked, Ellie suddenly heard a deep and powerful sound, as if it came from the depths of the earth. The sound grew louder, and the ground around began to tremble slightly. Ellie was startled. She knew that maybe Grandpa Treeman was coming. Sure enough, after a while, Ellie saw a huge figure appear in front of her. The figure got closer, and Ellie could see clearly that it was Grandpa Treeman. Grandpa Treeman's body was made up of thick tree trunks. The bark was rough and thick like a layer of hard armor. His branches were like huge arms, stretching out in all directions, and the leaves rustled on the branches, as if telling ancient stories. Ellie summoned up her courage, walked forward and said respectfully, "Hello, Grandpa Treeman. I'm Ellie from Silverbrook Town. The fairies said you know the secret of the whispers in the forest. Can you tell me?" Grandpa Treeman lowered his head, looked at Ellie with deep and kind eyes and said slowly, "Child, the fact that you've come here shows that you're very brave. This forest once had a harmonious and powerful magic that protected all the creatures in it. However, a sudden disaster broke this peace. Dark forces invaded the forest. Although they were repelled, it led to the imbalance of the magic. Those whispers are a manifestation of the magic imbalance." Ellie asked anxiously, "Then what can be done to restore the balance of the magic?" Grandpa Treeman sighed slightly and said, "To restore the balance of the magic, you need to find the legendary white deer. The white deer has powerful magic power, and it might be able to help you repair the forest's magic. But the white deer is very mysterious. It travels around the forest and is very difficult to find. Child, are you willing to take on this arduous task?" Ellie nodded firmly and said, "I am willing, Grandpa Treeman. I will definitely find the white deer and restore the magic balance of the forest." Grandpa Treeman smiled gratifyingly and said, "Good child. I believe in you. Keep walking along this stream, pass through a misty forest, and in the depths of the forest, you might find the trace of the white deer. But there will be many dangers along the way. Be careful." Ellie said gratefully, "Thank you, Grandpa Treeman. I will be careful." After saying goodbye to Grandpa Treeman, Ellie continued walking along the stream. She knew that more difficult challenges awaited her ahead, but her heart was filled with firm belief. To uncover the secrets of the moon forest and restore its harmony, she was willing to bravely face all difficulties. As Ellie gradually went deeper into the forest, the surrounding environment became more and more mysterious. The misty forest was filled with thick fog, and visibility was extremely low. Ellie walked carefully, always on guard against possible dangers around her. Suddenly, she heard a low growl faintly coming from the fog. The sound was full of threat, making Ellie's heart beat faster involuntarily. Ellie tightened her grip on the knife in her hand and nervously stared in the direction where the sound came from. She knew that a severe test was about to come. English. Chapter 2. Wonderful Encounters in the Forest. The first rays of the morning sun filtered gently through the tent's opening, softly landing on Ellie's face and rousing her from a sweet slumber. Ellie's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, she lingered in that hazy space between dream and reality. Blinking, she gradually came to, realizing she was in the moon forest. She wriggled out of her sleeping bag, stretched extravagantly, and inhaled the crisp morning air. The rest from the previous night had invigorated her, and she was brimming with eagerness for the day's adventures. Ellie stepped out of the tent, and the sunlight embraced her warm and soothing. Looking up, she saw the tree branches and leaves swaying gently in the breeze, as if beckoning to her. Ellie decided to fuel up with breakfast first. She retrieved some dry rations and water from her backpack and sat in front of the tent, savoring them leisurely. As she ate, she took in the surrounding scenery. The forest was bathed in a particularly beautiful morning light. Birds chirped merrily in the branches, and dewdrops on the leaves sparkled like precious jewels. After finishing her meal, Ellie packed her belongings and resumed her exploration. She continued along the path she traversed the previous night, her heart full of curiosity about what new wonders awaited her. After walking for a while, Ellie's ears caught a clear, melodious sound, like the tinkling of numerous tiny bells in the wind. She followed the sound, a mix of excitement and nervousness coursing through her. Rounding a thicket of bushes, an awe-inspiring sight greeted Ellie. A group of fairies was dancing in an open area filled with a riot of colorful blossoms. They were minuscule, about the size of a thumb, their bodies radiating a soft, resplendent glow, as if they'd stepped straight out of a fairy tale. The fairies' wings were as delicate as cicada wings, refracting a kaleidoscope of colors in the sunlight, a sight of breathtaking beauty. Ellie gasped in astonishment, her eyes wide. She'd never witnessed such a magical scene. The fairies seemed to sense Ellie's presence and halted their dancing, regarding her with curiosity. One fairy fluttered its wings and flew up to Ellie, tilting its head. In a clear, sweet voice it asked, "Who are you? And what brings you to this forest?" Ellie snapped out of her daze, smiled softly, and replied, "I'm Ellie from Silverbrook Town. I've heard that mysterious whispers can be heard in this forest on the night of the full moon. So I've come to uncover the mystery. Do you know anything about those whispers?" The fairy's eyes twinkled merrily. "Well, those whispers do hold a secret, but it's an ancient and convoluted tale. Would you like to play with us? Maybe during our play, you'll glean some clues about the whispers." Ellie nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I'd love to play with you all." With that, Ellie joined the fairies in their game. The fairies flitted around Ellie, leading her on a lively chase through the flowers. They'd alight on blossoms to gather pollen, then twirl and leap through the air, their movements a display of grace. Ellie laughed and played along, feeling like she'd been transported back to her carefree childhood. After a while of play, Ellie and the fairies settled on the grass to rest. Ellie broached the subject again. Chapter 3. Crisis and Turning Point in the Misty Forest. Ellie tightly gripped the knife in her hand, her eyes fixed intently on the direction from which the growl was coming in the mist. Her heart was pounding like a drum, and her breathing had become rapid. However, she tried her best to stay calm, her mind racing as she thought about countermeasures. As the growl grew closer, a huge figure loomed in the mist. Ellie widened her eyes, trying to make out what it was. Gradually, a large black beast emerged in front of her. It had sharp claws that glinted like cold blades, thick limbs that seemed capable of easily tearing through anything that got in its way, and a pair of blood-red eyes that revealed ferocity and brutality. The beast let out a deafening roar at Ellie and then lunged at her. Ellie quickly sidestepped, avoiding the beast's first attack. She knew that she couldn't fight this beast head-on and had to find its weakness. As she nimbly evaded the beast's attacks, Ellie carefully observed its movements. During the struggle with the beast, Ellie noticed that every time the beast turned around, its left flank would be briefly exposed, and that area didn't seem as hard as the others. An idea flashed through Ellie's mind, and she decided to take a risk. When the beast turned around again, Ellie seized the opportunity, rushed forward, and stabbed the beast's left flank with the knife in her hand. The knife pierced the beast's body, but because the beast's fur was too thick, the knife didn't cause a fatal wound. The beast let out an angry roar in pain. It turned around and swiped at Ellie with its claws. Ellie couldn't dodge in time, and her arm was scratched by the beast's claws, and blood immediately flowed out. However, Ellie wasn't deterred by the pain. She gritted her teeth, endured the pain, and continued to fight the beast. At this moment, Ellie suddenly remembered some vines she had seen in the forest before. Those vines were very tough. She looked around and found that there were some vines not far away. An idea occurred to Ellie, and she ran towards the direction of the vines. The beast chased closely behind. When Ellie reached the vines, she quickly tore off several vines, then tied one end of the vines to a nearby tree and made a noose at the other end. Ellie held the noose, waiting for the beast to approach. When the beast caught up, Ellie seized the right moment and threw the noose towards the beast's head. The noose accurately caught the beast's neck, and Ellie pulled the vine tightly, trying to trap the beast. The beast struggled desperately. It was so powerful that Ellie felt she was about to lose her grip on the vine. Just when Ellie was almost unable to hold on, she suddenly heard a familiar, clear voice. It was the fairies she had met before. The fairies saw that Ellie was fighting the beast and immediately used their magic. They flew around the beast, emitting soft rays of light. These lights shone on the beast, making its movements sluggish. With the help of the fairies, Ellie finally managed to trap the beast in the vines. After being trapped, the beast still struggled constantly, but it couldn't break free from the vines. Ellie let out a sigh of relief and looked at the fairies gratefully, saying, "Thank you. If it weren't for you coming in time, I really don't know what I would have done." The fairies smiled and said, "You're welcome. We saw you were in danger and came to help right away. It's great that you're okay." Ellie looked at her injured arm and simply bandaged it with a cloth strip. The fairies asked with concern, "You're injured. Can you still keep going?" Ellie nodded firmly and said, "I'm fine. This injury is nothing. I must find the white deer and restore the magic balance of the forest." The fairies looked at Ellie with admiration and said, "You're so brave. Then we'll accompany you. If there's any danger, we can help you." Ellie said gratefully, "That's great. With you by my side, I'm even more confident." So Ellie and the fairies continued to move forward in the misty forest. As they walked, Ellie noticed that the mist around them seemed to be getting lighter, and she also saw some strange lights flickering ahead. An idea occurred to Ellie. and she guessed that the white deer might be ahead. As they kept walking, those strange lights became brighter and brighter. Suddenly, a beautiful lake appeared in front of Ellie. The lake water was crystal clear, shining with a golden light in the sun. Many rare flowers and plants grew around the lake, exuding a charming fragrance. In the center of the lake there was an island. Standing on the island was a beautiful white deer. Its whole body was as white as snow, and its antlers were like exquisite coral, shining with a mysterious luster in the sun. The white deer's eyes were deep and serene, as if they could see through everything in the world. Ellie pointed at the white deer excitedly and whispered, "Look, is that the white deer?" The fairies also said excitedly, "Yes, that's it. We finally found it." Ellie walked towards the lake cautiously. She knew that the conversation with the white deer next would determine whether she could complete the mission of restoring the magic balance of the forest. Chapter 4. The Guidance of the White Deer and the Restoration of Magic. With a heart full of nervousness and excitement, Ellie slowly walked towards the lake. Every step was filled with anticipation, as she was well aware that this white deer was crucial for restoring the magic balance of the forest. The fairies surrounded her, sharing the same excited and curious expressions as they approached the lake that shone with mysterious light. When Ellie reached the lakeside, she called out softly, "White deer, I'm Ellie. I come from Silverbrook Town, seeking to uncover the secrets of the mysterious whispers in the Moon Forest and restore the magic balance of the forest. Grandpa Treeman told me that you might be able to help me." The white deer stood quietly on the island in the middle of the lake, its deep gaze fixed on Ellie, as if it could see through the determination and eagerness in her heart. After a while, the white deer lowered its head, took a sip of the lake water, then raised its head and let out a long and gentle cry. With this cry, ripples spread across the lake's surface. The lake water seemed to be drawn by an invisible force, forming a water bridge leading to the island in the middle of the lake. Ellie looked at this magical scene in surprise, and the fairies couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. The white deer motioned for Ellie to step onto the water bridge. Ellie took a deep breath, summoned up her courage, and stepped onto this bridge made of lake water. She could feel that the water under her feet was both soft and firm, as if holding her up as she walked. When Ellie reached the island and stood in front of the white deer, she said respectfully again, "White deer, I sincerely hope you can tell me how to restore the magic balance of the forest." The white deer stared at Ellie, its eyes revealing an ancient and wise light. It slowly opened its mouth, and its voice was like the breeze passing through the leaves, gentle yet clearly audible. "Child, restoring the magic balance of the forest is no easy task. You need to find the magic source deep in the forest, which is the root of all magic power. However, the magic source is sealed by the dark forces with numerous seals. Only by gathering 3 mysterious keys can you unlock these seals and repair the magic." Ellie listened attentively to the white deer's words, secretly memorizing every key piece of information in her heart. She asked, "White deer, where are the 3 mysterious keys? How can I find them?" The white deer raised its head and looked towards the depths of the forest, saying, "The first key is hidden in an ancient tree hole. The tree hole is heavily entangled with vines, and strange runes are all around. The runes will test your wisdom. Only by solving the riddle of the runes can you find the key. The second key is at the bottom of the Guardian Lake. There is a powerful water spirit in the Guardian Lake guarding it. You need to win the recognition of the water spirit, and then it will give you the key. As for the third key, it is at the top of Sky Peak. Sky Peak is towering into the clouds with rugged and steep mountain paths and howling winds. But on the mountaintop, you will meet a wise eagle, and it will guide you to find the key. Listening to the white deer's description, Ellie felt both excited about the challenges and worried about the unknown. But she quickly adjusted her mindset and said firmly, "White deer, I understand. No matter how difficult it is, I'm willing to try. I must find the 3 keys and restore the magic balance of the forest." The white deer nodded and said, "Child, I believe in you. You possess the qualities of bravery and determination, which are the keys to completing the mission. During the process of finding the keys, you will encounter various difficulties and dangers, but remember, never give up easily. The fairies will always be with you, and they will also offer you help." Ellie looked gratefully at the fairies beside her, then said to the white deer, "Thank you, white deer. I will carry your trust and the help of the fairies and strive to complete the mission." The white deer let out another cry, and the water bridge on the lake's surface appeared again. Ellie knew that the white deer was signaling her that she could leave. She turned around and walked back to the lakeside along the water bridge, with the fairies following closely behind her. After leaving the lake, Ellie and the fairies immediately began to discuss the plan to find the keys. They decided to look for the first key, the one in the ancient tree hole, first. According to the white deer's description, they walked towards the depths of the forest, searching for the tree hole entangled with vines and covered with runes. Along the way, Ellie and the fairies encouraged each other, sharing their thoughts and suggestions. After some searching, they finally found the ancient tree in a quiet grove. The trunk of the tree was indeed densely entangled with vines, and some strange runes were faintly visible among the vines. Ellie stepped forward and carefully observed those runes. The runes seemed to be an ancient form of writing, recording a mysterious riddle. Ellie fell into deep thought, recalling various ancient books she had read in the library, trying to find clues to solve the riddle of the runes. The fairies were not idle either. They flew around, carefully checking every detail, hoping to find some hints. Suddenly, one fairy discovered that the arrangement of the runes seemed to have some connection with the growth direction of the surrounding trees. Following the fairy's hint, Ellie observed the runes and the trees again. To her delight, she found that by interpreting the runes in the order of the tree growth direction, they could form a sentence. Follow the direction of the wind and find the hidden entrance. Ellie was overjoyed. She raised her head and felt the direction of the wind blowing. Then she led the fairies to walk in the direction of the wind. Sure enough, not far away, they discovered an entrance hidden behind the vines. Ellie took a deep breath and walked into the entrance with the fairies. Chapter 5. Exploration in the tree hole and the first key. Ellie and the fairies entered the entrance of the tree hole, and an old and mysterious atmosphere filled the place. Faint light filtered in through the entrance and the gaps between the vines, creating mottled light and shadow on the ground, making the interior of the tree hole seem even more profound and unpredictable. The walls of the cave were covered with various strange patterns and symbols, as if telling ancient stories. Ellie walked forward cautiously, her eyes carefully observing everything around. She knew that in this tree hole full of puzzles, any detail could be the key to solving the riddle of the runes and finding the first key. The fairies followed closely behind her, and their faint light flickered in the darkness, adding a touch of warmth to this gloomy environment. As they walked, a fork in the road appeared ahead. Both passages seemed full of unknowns. Ellie stopped and fell into deep thought. She recalled the hint she got from interpreting the runes outside the cave. Follow the direction of the wind and find the hidden entrance. So she closed her eyes and calmed herself down to feel the flow of the wind. She felt a faint current of air blowing from the passage on the right, so she decided to lead the fairies to go right. Walking along the passage on the right, Ellie found that the patterns on the cave walls became more complex, and the symbols were even more difficult to understand. Suddenly, one fairy pointed at a pattern on the cave wall and exclaimed excitedly, "Ellie, look at this pattern. It seems a bit similar to the pattern on the white deer we saw by the lake before." Ellie leaned in to observe carefully, and indeed found a subtle connection between them. She guessed that this might be an important clue. As they continued to go deeper, the passage gradually narrowed, and they had to walk sideways. Just then, Ellie heard a slight tick-tock sound, as if the sound of water droplets falling. As they moved forward, the tick-tock sound became clearer, and Ellie realized that there might be a water source ahead. Sure enough, not far away, they came to a small cave with a clear spring in the center. The surface of the clear spring was as calm as a mirror, reflecting everything around. Ellie crouched down and carefully observed the clear spring, and found that some words were faintly emerging on the water surface. She leaned closer and saw that it said, "Only when the heart is as calm as still water can one see the truth." An idea flashed through Ellie's mind. She understood that this might be a hint that she needed to maintain a calm state of mind to find the next clue. So Ellie took a deep breath and calmed her mood. She observed the clear spring and the surrounding environment again. Suddenly, she noticed that one stone on the side of the cave was different from the others. This stone was engraved with some strange patterns and seemed to be movable. Ellie tried to push the stone, and the stone slowly moved, revealing a hidden cave entrance. Ellie and the fairies continued to move forward along the hidden cave entrance. At this time, they came to a spacious stone chamber. In the center of the stone chamber, there was a stone table engraved with runes. Ellie approached the stone table and found that these runes belonged to the same system as those outside the cave, but they were more complex. She knew that this might be the last puzzle to find the first key. Ellie concentrated and began to interpret the runes on the stone table. She recalled the knowledge she had seen in ancient books and combined all the discoveries in the cave, trying hard to find the pattern among the runes. The fairies also helped beside her. They shone their faint light on the runes, trying to find some hidden clues. After arduous thinking and attempts, Ellie finally deciphered the meaning of the runes. The runes indicated that she needed to touch the runes on the stone table in a specific order to open the hidden mechanism and find the first key. Ellie took a deep breath and carefully touched the runes on the stone table according to the instructions of the runes. When she touched the last rune, the stone table gave a slight vibration. Then one side of the stone table slowly opened, revealing a groove, and in the groove lay a key emitting a faint light. Ellie picked up the key excitedly, her eyes shining with joy. She had successfully found the first key. The fairies also cheered and flew around Ellie. Ellie looked at the fairies gratefully and said, "Thank you. Without your help, I couldn't have found the key so smoothly." The fairies smiled and said, "You're welcome. We're in this together, and this is also an interesting adventure." Ellie carefully put away the first key, and then she and the fairies left the stone chamber together. They returned along the original path and walked out of the tree hole. When she saw the sunlight outside again, a sense of accomplishment welled up in Ellie's heart. She knew that this was just the first step in restoring the magic balance of the forest. There were still 2 keys waiting for her to find, but she was full of confidence. After a short rest, Ellie and the fairies began to discuss how to find the second key, the one at the bottom of the guardian lake, guarded by the water spirit. According to the description of the white deer, they set off in the direction of the guardian lake. Chapter 6: The Guardian Lake and the Water Spirit's Test. Ellie and the fairies advanced along the forest path in the direction of the guardian lake as indicated by the white deer. Along the way, the scenery of the forest gradually changed. The originally thick trees became sparse, replaced by large patches of soft grass. All kinds of unknown small flowers bloomed on the grass, colorful and swaying in the wind. The air was filled with the fresh fragrance of flowers, and the cheerful singing of birds could be heard occasionally, as if adding a touch of joy to their journey. As they continued walking, a glittering lake appeared ahead. That was the Guardian Lake. The lake water was a deep blue, like a huge gem inlaid on the earth. The sunlight shone on the lake's surface, reflecting a dazzling light that almost made it impossible to open one's eyes. Some strange waterweeds grew by the lake, and their leaves fluttered in the water like ribbons, as if showing the mystery and beauty of the lake. Ellie and the fairies came to the lakeside. Ellie looked at this quiet and mysterious lake, her heart filled with both anticipation and nervousness. She knew that the second key was hidden at the bottom of the lake, and the water spirit guarding the key was the challenge she had to face. Ellie took a deep breath. Just as she was about to think about how to dive to the bottom of the lake, suddenly ripples appeared on the lake's surface, and a figure slowly emerged from the water. It was a water spirit. It had a slender figure and a soft blue light radiated all over its body, as if it was condensed from the lake water. Its hair was like flowing water waves, and its eyes were deep blue, revealing a mysterious and lively atmosphere. The water spirit looked at Ellie and the fairies, and its voice was clear and sweet, like the sound of flowing water. "Who are you? Why did you come to the Guardian Lake?" Ellie summoned up her courage and took a step forward, saying, "We came here in search of the key to restore the magic balance of the forest. The white deer guided us and said that the second key is at the bottom of the lake, guarded by you. We hope you can give us the key." The water spirit slightly frowned, and a trace of vigilance flashed in its eyes. "Restoring the magic balance of the forest? This is no small matter. What makes you think you can do it?" Ellie looked firmly at the water spirit and said, "I know it's difficult, but I have the determination and courage to try. I've already experienced many challenges in the process of finding the keys and successfully found the first key. I believe I can complete the mission and restore the forest to its former harmony." The fairies also chimed in. "Yes, Ellie is very brave, and we will always be with her to help her." The water spirit was silent for a while, as if thinking about Ellie's words. Then it slowly said, "In that case, I can give you a chance, but you have to pass my test. At the bottom of the lake, there is a maze made of crystal. Hidden in the maze are 3 fake keys and 1 real key. You need to find the real key within the specified time to pass the test." Ellie said without hesitation, "Okay, we accept the test." The water spirit waved its hand, and a blue light enveloped Ellie and the fairies, slowly sending them to the bottom of the lake. When they entered the bottom of the lake, they found themselves in a magnificent crystal maze. The crystal walls sparkled with colorful lights under the faint light at the bottom of the lake, making people feel like they were in a dream world. Ellie knew that time was pressing. She quickly observed the surrounding environment, trying to find the pattern of the maze. The fairies also dispersed and searched for clues in various passages. Ellie walked along one passage and found some strange symbols engraved on the wall. She studied these symbols carefully and found that they seemed to indicate a certain direction. Ellie walked in the direction indicated by the symbols, hoping to find the key as soon as possible. However, the maze was complex and changeable, and Ellie soon got lost. Just when she felt a little anxious, one fairy flew over and told her that some special marks were found in another passage. Ellie immediately followed the fairy to that passage and indeed saw some marks different from the previous ones on the wall. After some thinking, Ellie thought that these marks might be the key to finding the real key. She and the fairies continued to explore along the marks. On the way, they encountered many forks and traps. Once, Ellie almost fell into a hidden deep hole in the ground. Fortunately, the fairies used their magic to pull her back in time. As time passed by, the sense of urgency in Ellie's heart became stronger and stronger. Finally, with less than half of the specified time left, Ellie found a key emitting a unique light in a hidden corner. Her heart leaped with joy. She thought this was likely to be the real key. But to make sure, she still carefully checked the surroundings and found no trace of other keys. Ellie took the key and returned along the original path with the fairies. When they surfaced and handed the key to the water spirit carefully examined the key and then showed a gratified smile. Yes, this is the real key. You have passed the test and proven your ability and determination. Ellie and the fairies cheered. They had successfully obtained the second key, and were one step closer to restoring the magic balance of the forest. The water spirit handed the key to Ellie and said, "I hope you can successfully find the last key, complete the mission, and bring peace back to the forest." Ellie took the key and said gratefully, "Thank you, water spirit. We will definitely try our best." Ellie carefully put away the second key. After saying goodbye to the water spirit, she and the fairies set off in the direction of Sky Peak to find the last key.